Colleagues, greetings. We begin our working day and invite spokesperson of the MOD, Viktoria Kushnir, Colonel Viktoria Kushnir, and then we'll have ATO spokesperson Leonid Mr. Marinovich. Good morning. Good morning. Happy to have you here. Yesterday, Minister of Defense General Colonel Poltorak had a meeting with the Director of the Department of Strategy and Policy of Armed Forces, U.S. Armed Forces Radiki, General Major Radiki. They discussed cooperation in the framework of United Coordination Committee on Military Cooperation and Defense Planning. On June 10, 2015, the Ministry of Defense brought to the Cabinet of Ministers the draft Defense Program Optimizing and Reorganizing Armed Forces of Ukraine for 2015-2017. That program was developed in order to optimize and reorganize armed forces, which was approved by the President of Ukraine. In the project, there are conclusions and after received experience of combat, and the program provides improvement of military potential of armed forces of Ukraine. Now we have 17 pilots to improve the logistics of armed forces in the field of procurement, management of state enterprises. Food provides, items provides, and feeding and providing housing for them. Very soon we will finish the package of conceptual documents in the field of national security and defense, prepared with the participation of the joint working group Ukraine-NATO on military reform on the high level. The concept of the development of the sector of security and defense of Ukraine, and the military doctrine of Ukraine, and strategic defense bulletin of Ukraine. Today, on June 19, according to the decree of the President of Ukraine, the sixth wave of mobilization begins. As before, the army needs professionals for paratroopers, for intelligence, and for mechanized tank units, and also professionals of repairing professions like drivers and military engineers. It is planned that there will be people with experience of military service and also those who were not drafted before. The task of this line of mobilization is to provide full rotation of those who were mobilized during the third waves of mobilization and supporting armed forces of Ukraine in the high level readiness level. All mobilized will be trained. And they'll learn them a military profession, and they will be sent to military units from where after, and they will go to ATO. As a result of the fifth wave of mobilization and rotation from the second rotation was replaced, and also we prepared enough of military men to man units that are in ATO. On June 18, 2015, the MOD paid remuneration to ATO for 16,105,000 hryvnia, 500 for destroyed equipment of the enemy, 1,542,000 for destroyed equipment, 778,000 for successful combats, and for direct participation in combats we paid out 13,785,000 hryvnia to 2,556 military men of Ukraine. Also, every family of a military who died during their service, they received social payment in the size of 500 minimal salaries, and that is 609,000 hryvnia. To the Department of Finances of the Ministry of Defense, we received 767 files to provide assistance to the families of died military men. 1,355 families received financial support, and today we'll make a decision for fiscal compensation to 31 families and a decision on payment of fiscal compensation related to disability to 186 military men. 68. The leadership of the Ministry of Defense and General Staff, they keep those issues on the agenda. All cases, untimely payments, the Ministry of Defense receives a report about that and takes immediate measures to resolve problems. The process of providing a status of participants of combats goes on. On June 17, the status was given to 53,839 military men and those who work in armed forces of Ukraine. They participate in ATO. MOD opens competition for construction companies and we want to buy ready housing for military men. For the participation, we invite construction companies and organizations that finance construction. So we'll receive applications until June 30. As a framework of this procedure, will buy accommodations for 110 million hryvnia. As a part of a reform in the Ministry of Defense, we developed the program to support with housing military men who will develop a magazine privileged or beneficial compensatory loaning. The form is directed at the fact that the military men during the years of service could, on benefited conditions, to pay loans to cover their loans, to help to cover their loans, which they choose by themselves. That program will launch on January 1st, 2016. I'll give the floor to Major Anton Mironovich, who is a spokesperson of ATO, and he'll inform you on updates. He'll give updates of what's happened in ATO during the last days. Good morning. Tell us, please, about the dynamics in ATO during the last days. Dear colleagues, the situation is still complicated, but it is under control with ATO. Despite the intensity of challenge of pro-Russian illegal armed formations, there are signs that the situation is aggravates. They shell upon Ukrainian armed forces using a ground system which is prohibited by Minsk agreements, artillery, and also small arms and grenade launchers. In general, the biggest number of such shells is near Donetsk. During Open Krasnogorsk and others. During the last 3 days, pro-Russian hybrid gangs 220 times shelled upon positions of Ukrainian armed forces. 58 on June 16, 67 on June 17. During the last day, they shelled 90 times. The most popular weapon they use, mortars, is those that are used by Minsk agreements, and the caliber 120 mortars, and they did it yesterday near Popasna. More often they shell upon our positions using artillery systems every day on different parts of separation. They shell using 152 mm artillery and also rocket launched systems. And yesterday, upon the position of Ukrainian armed forces in Novokoshchevsk and Luhansk region, they launched 55 rockets from Grata. The statistics shows that the number of application by the enemy of heavy artillery and gets intensified when the humanitarian convoy comes from Russian Federation. So that's those convoys that deliver not necessarily things but ammunition, and which gangs use against Ukrainian military men. Also, during this period, taking into consideration this night, militants 5 times tried to break through our positions. For all such efforts, Sonia Marinka. At night on June 17, they attacked 2 times forces of ATO, 2 groups, at the beginning 30 and then 150 militants. They attacked our positions, but because of professional approach, the enemy had losses. After the fire of groups of occupants that were trying to kick out our forces in America, but again they had losses and they had to move back. On June 17, the group of militants that got into a battle with our forces in Sokolniki, and so militants had losses. According to our data, military leadership gave an order to stop limitation on using heavy artillery. It is clear that militants planned to move artillery units to the line of separation. Taking into consideration future losses during new military activities, the command of illegal military financing take measures in order to enlarge medical support, and they create more places in hospitals. So it is clear that for disinformation, and they spread information about activization of military activities since yesterday up to June 22. First of all, towards Stanично Luhansk, Artemovsk, Dzержинsk, and Granita. Directly on the territory of Ukraine, there was groups of Russian troops, and almost 9,000 of them, who have about 500 anti-tank equipment. Also, they have about 200 tanks, and also there is one more group of them is on the border of Ukraine. Illegal military formation include 33,000 people. They have 300 tanks, about 900 armed vehicles, and more than 300 artillery, units of artillery. Also, the enemy is moving groups and also thus rotation. Then the signs that they will try to advance near Mariinka. At the same time, in the units of ATO, we have necessary measures in order to strengthen capability and defense capability. And we have resolved in full readiness, and we comply with the agreement and open fire only as answer, and we use only weapons that are not prohibited by military agreements. That's everything. Thank you. Thank you. Is there any question to the speakers? No question. Thank you very much, Viktoria and Anton. Talk to you on Tuesday. Colleagues, our next briefing will be at 10:30.